Under federal law, USCA Title 18, Chapter 44, under the Commerce Clause, under federal law, it is not against the federal law for a convicted felon to own a firearm under this code. Before a convicted felon under federal law may be arrested for owning a firearm, he must be in interstate commerce, selling and buying firearms as a dealer, underground dealer. Merely simply owning a firearm for self-defense and the protection of his wife and children is not against federal law. However, some federal prosecutors have arrested these persons for simply owning a firearm using this code. But what happens when they have done this is, when these cases were appealed to the federal courts, higher courts, the higher court said, no, simply owning a firearm as a convicted felon is not a violation of Code USCA 1844. Now, under federal law, there is one type of firearms that convicted felons have no fear of being arrested for owning, and that is owning what is called black powder, muzzleloader, antique replica firearms. Any firearm that requires powder ball and cap loading is not considered firearms, and therefore convicted felons may own them without any fear at all of being arrested under federal law. So your choice is which one you want to choose. Now realize in America only 10 states let convicted felons own firearms. And these, Texas is one of these, and they did a fact-finding statistic research on recidivism rate. That is the rate at which felons recommit crimes and go back into the criminal justice system. And it was determined that after 5 years, convicted felons that stay out 5 years or more, 9 out of 10 of these never recommit a crime. And they number in the millions. And so you've got millions of people now in our nation known as convicted felons with jobs, homes, wives, children, and they have to have the right, they're living honest lives, and they have to have the right to protect and defend their life. So Texas restores the rights of ex-felons to own firearms after 5 years. Of course, they may own the old black powder, muzzleloader, antique replicas anytime and use them in any way they choose. But full restoration of their rights to own firearms occurs after 5 years. Now, there are some states who just let felons own shotguns and rifles, but not pistols. And this is the biggest injustice that you've ever seen in this nation. 40 states denying felons the right to protect their own life and protect the life of their wife and children. And the illogical laws that was passed in the 60s by these illogical socialist gun control lawmakers of the time era in the 1960s. When they passed the laws making it illegal for felons to own firearms, there were only a few hundred felons in the nation then. And they were all whipped up in the hysteria of Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination and John F. Kennedy's assassination, and they all attributed these things to crime and felons owning firearms. Somehow they took the hysteria of the times and they applied it to convicted felons, and they said, well, if you're a convicted felon, you no longer have the right to protect your life and the life of your family and children if you do decide to live an honest life. So the illogical laws that were passed in the 1960s denying felons the right to own firearms are now in question Because now, 50 years later, you have millions of men living honest lives without the right to protect their own very life. And what does our Constitution say about that? All men, regardless of who they are, have a God-given right to protect their life. That's why we guarantee the right to own firearms. So clearly denying convicted felons the right to own firearms was a big injustice. An injustice that we at exfelon.biz are working to change. We're working state by state. Contact your state representative and state senator. Send him or her this video and tell them to restore the rights of ex-felons to own firearms in their state.